How's it going, everyone? Jimbo Slice here. Welcome to episode 10 of the Bostonian Wrestling Watchers podcast. Today, Matt and Bobby couldn't be making the podcast today, so I will be filming it myself. And before we get started with the podcast, I would like to wish Triple H a very heartwarming congratulations on reaching a 25-year anniversary on being in the WWE. He is a very successful writer, wrestler, creator, and he's just a very talented individual, to say the least. And Bostonian Wrestling Watchers would like to wish him a very successful, heartwarming congratulations. Thank you for everything you've done for the WWE, and I cannot wait to see what you have more in the future, to have offer in the future. Now, today's podcast will be featuring none other than Triple H's top 10 WWE matches of all time. We've got some legendary great matches here on this list, so let's get started. So kicking off the list at number 10 is Triple H versus Buck Zumhofe, and keep in mind that this match had taken place on April 30th, 1995, in the WWF, and this was Triple H's debut as he was announced to the ring as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and he had finished off Buck Zumhofe in a very quick match. Actually, it wasn't that long, and he had finished him off not with the pedigree, but it was almost like a cutter type RKO. And when I've watched this match, honestly, dozens of times, and I honestly thought that when I first had seen this match, I honestly thought it got, the sense in my mind that this would be Triple H's finishing move, but he had actually used a different move rather than the pedigree, and the pedigree would be created, further down the line. But this was just definitely a start to a very successful road to Triple H, and this was definitely a start for a very successful career that was about to happen for this individual. Triple H is definitely one of the all-time greats, and this match, if any of you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend, because it is an all-time classic, and this match had opened up the book and started the first page of writing of such a very successful career. Definitely a match worth watching, and it's definitely, one of Triple H's greatest matches of all time. Coming in at number 9 is Triple H versus Cactus Jack. People who don't know Cactus Jack, it's Mick Foley, inside Hell in a Cell for the WWF Championship at No Way Out 2000. Now, this match was definitely brutal because it had featured Cactus Jack being suplexed or flipped on top of Hell in a Cell, and he had actually broken through the cell and crash landed straight in the middle of the ring, and he had actually fell through the ring. He had created a big giant gap, and this was definitely one of the most brutal matches of all time in Triple H's career because it was bloody, it was violent, it was gory, it was intense. It was definitely a great match worth seeing. And honestly, Triple H versus Mankind versus Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, all in all, it's definitely one of the greatest rivalries of all time because Triple H and, Mankind and Cactus Jack, these two men had helped start the Attitude Era to what it was and helped create such a hype and build towards it. And without these two men, the Attitude Era basically wouldn't have gotten the hype and all of the attention it gotten that if they weren't in it. So I want to thank Triple H for putting on such a great match against Cactus Jack. It was definitely a match worth seeing, and I recommend everyone watching it because Triple H did win. Let's see. Coming in at number 8 is Triple H versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. And if Daniel Bryan won, he would be going on to face Randy Orton and Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship later on that night. Now, this match had a lot of story to it because 8 months earlier from this match taking place, Daniel Bryan had won the WWE Championship against John Cena at SummerSlam. And he had also, keep in mind, he had debuted the running knee maneuver. And Triple H was the special guest referee. And once Daniel Bryan had won the World Heavyweight Championship, Randy Orton, Mr. Money in the Bank at the time, was, walking down the stage to the ring, and Triple H had actually screwed Daniel Bryan, pedigreeing him in the middle of the ring, giving Randy Orton the opportunity to cash in his Money in the Bank and to capture the World Heavyweight Championship off of Daniel Bryan. Now, this was the start of the Authority forming, as Triple H had created a very intense rivalry with Daniel Bryan, because this rivalry would be going on all the way to WrestleMania, and this would lead kind of a underdog story of Daniel Bryan. And Triple H was definitely better as a heel at the time more than a face, because Triple H as a heel, in my opinion, was definitely better than Triple H as a face, because he had a lot more character, he had a lot more build to himself, and this match at WrestleMania 30 was kind of closing the chapter of Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. Daniel Bryan, after all he's been through within the past 8 months, losing the World Heavyweight Championship and regaining the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 30 once he defeated Triple H with the running knee. And keep in mind, he did have an injured shoulder, but he still came back, and Triple H did attack Daniel Bryan at the end of this match and injuring his shoulder more. It was definitely a very emotional ride for Daniel Bryan and for Triple H, because Triple H had to do anything in his power to make Daniel Bryan suffer and lose. And it was honestly just a great storyline. For those of you who haven't seen that match, I definitely recommend it. It's one of Triple H's and Daniel Bryan's all-time greatest matches of all time. Definitely worth seeing. So coming in at number 7 is Triple H versus Stone Cold in a 3 Stages of Hell match at No Way Out 2001. This match was definitely one of the best 3 Stages of Hell matches of all time, because Triple H, even though Triple H did lose to Stone Cold, Triple H and Stone Cold are the faces of the Attitude Era. And I would call this during the time of the Attitude Era, because I would say the Attitude Era did end back in 2002. I would say that was when the peak of the Attitude Era had dropped, and that's when the Ruthless Aggression Era had started. But anyways, I'm getting carried away. Triple H versus Stone Cold, one of the greatest rivalries of all time, because here we have Triple H and Stone Cold going at it in a 3 Stages of Hell match. Very intense, very bloody. It was a great match, definitely worth seeing. Even though Triple H did win, this is one of Triple H's best matches of all time, in my opinion. It's definitely worth seeing. If you guys haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. Coming in at number 6 is the big dog, Roman Reigns, versus Triple H at WrestleMania 32 for the WWE Championship. Now, this match had also had a lot of story background to it, because prior, November to April, 6 months, something like that, Roman Reigns had beaten Daniel Ambrose for the WWE Championship at Survivor Series 2015. Now, after this match, Triple H had came to the ring, tried shaking Roman Reigns' hand, entering him into the Authority, trying to, make an offer to him. But Roman Reigns had declined it and had spared Triple H in the ring, and that is when Mr. Money in the Bank at the time, Sheamus, had bro-kicked Roman Reigns and had cashed in his Money in the Bank to become a 2-time WWE champion. And Sheamus would go on to become WWE champion and start a rivalry with Roman Reigns on Monday Night Raw, TLC 2015. And Roman Reigns had taken back his WWE Championship on an episode of Monday Night Raw back in, I believe, December. And that's when Roman Reigns, Vince McMahon had told Roman Reigns that he would be defending his WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble match pay-per-view in 2016, and if he had lost the Royal Rumble match and got eliminated, he would then lose his WWE Championship. And that is when Roman Reigns had also fought Triple H inside the Royal Rumble match, and Triple H had eliminated Roman Reigns, becoming WWE Champion, and would go on to WrestleMania 32, finishing off their bitter rivalry. And in this match was very intense. I didn't think it was that great, only because it kind of had like some parts that I didn't really like. I did love Roman Reigns spearing Stephanie McMahon. That was definitely a very intense sight. Because, who would have thought, a big guy like Roman Reigns spearing Stephanie McMahon down, and Roman Reigns did recapture his WWE Championship, and it was definitely a great match. If you guys haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. One of Triple H's greatest matches of all time. So coming in at number 5, this match is definitely a great one. Is Triple H versus Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam 2002. Now, this match had featured a ladder, a sledgehammer, and lots of blood. Triple H was bloody, and Shawn Michaels, the only thing I did not like about this match is Shawn Michaels had won by a slobber knocker small package, roll-up small package, and Triple H had attacked Shawn Michaels a couple weeks and months prior to this rivalry building up, and that is when Triple H had attacked Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels had shown Triple H camera footage of proof that he was the culprit, and he had attacked Shawn Michaels. And this is where we have two members of D-Generation X, one of the greatest factions of all time in WWE, going head to head at one of the biggest wrestling events of the summer, SummerSlam 2002, the same year I was born. And honestly, I remember looking back at this match, watching it for the first time a couple years ago, and I'm like, wow, these guys can definitely perform, and they have chemistry in the ring. And to see these two men going at it, these two best friends, now the creators and writers of NXT, I thought that it was definitely magical, Shawn Michaels going against Triple H in such a brutal and bludgeons match at SummerSlam. It was definitely a match in the books as one of the greatest. And Triple H losing to Shawn Michaels by a small package was definitely a kind of a Debbie Downer, but it was definitely a great match, at least worth seeing once. But definitely a great match. If you guys haven't seen it, I definitely recommend watching it. So anyways, coming in at number 4 is Triple H versus The Rock at Backlash 2000 for the WWF Championship. Now, I really liked this match, personally, because Stone Cold had interfered in the match once, Vince McMahon had came in the ring, and Stone Cold had a chair and had chair-shotted Vince McMahon, and everybody was down, including the ref, and, Stone Cold hit Vince McMahon with the chair, yelling at his face, getting on the ground, yelling at his face like he always does, and then hit Triple H with the steel chair, left the ring, Rock doing the people's elbow, hit him with the people's elbow for the win, 1, 2, 3, pinned Triple H, and became a new WWF champion. Now, Triple H did lose this match, but I really thought it was a great match all in all, because it had definitely helped make a name for Triple H, and this is when Triple H was starting to become well known. People started to like Triple H. People started to say, hey, this guy has really great chemistry. I cannot wait to see what he will definitely do in the future. And all these men had created such a very successful legacy in the Attitude Era. And honestly, it was a great match. Triple H versus The Rock. Even though Triple H did lose, the WWF Championship. I thought it was one of the greatest Triple H matches of all time. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely worth seeing. Coming in at number 3 is the Elimination Chamber match. And it is Rob Van Dam versus Shawn Michaels versus Kane versus Chris Jericho versus Booker T, and of course versus Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship inside the Elimination Chamber at Survivor Series 2002. Quick fact, this was the first Elimination Chamber match ever in the WWE, and even though Triple H did lose to his best friend Shawn Michaels, the last two competitors in the first ever Elimination Chamber match, he did lose the World Heavyweight Championship to Shawn Michaels. I thought that this match was definitely great. I honestly thought that Shawn Michaels winning the World Heavyweight Championship off his best friend was definitely a correct decision during that time, because even though these two men are very best friends in real life, it kind of had started that, friction between them. And this is when I thought, watching this match for the first time, I'm like, wow, these two men going at it inside the first ever Elimination Chamber match. It was brutal, to say the least. It was definitely entertaining. All these men had great chemistry in the ring all together. Kane, RVD, Chris Jericho, Booker T, Shawn Michaels, Triple H. Definitely a great match in the books. Triple H was definitely a great performer, even though he was the second to last superstar to get pinned. Great match, definitely worth seeing, of course. That was a great match. But anyways, coming in at number 2 is Triple H winning the Royal Rumble in 2016. Now, like I said, I already told you guys, the history between this match when Roman Reigns was forced to defend his WWE Championship inside the Royal Rumble match. And this match was definitely a iconic match because we also got to see the WWE debut of AJ Styles. And Triple H eliminating Roman Reigns it was kind of like the same thing between Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar. Like, once Triple H eliminated Roman Reigns, you knew for a fact that Triple H would be facing Roman Reigns at that WrestleMania. Same thing with Drew. Drew eliminated Brock. You already knew Drew was facing Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 36. It's kind of obvious, but Triple H versus Roman Reigns is definitely one of the greatest rivalries of all time for these both men, because it had made Roman Reigns a very successful underdog and the very successful competitor to who he is today. And Triple H was definitely one of the top guys in the business at that time. Even though he didn't perform a whole lot in 2016, he was definitely one of the top men, and he was definitely the guy. And like Ric Flair used to say, you got to be the man, you got to beat the man. And Roman Reigns had faced Triple H at that WrestleMania, won back the WWE Championship, but great chemistry, great storyline. Definitely recommend seeing that 30-man Royal Rumble match in 2016 after Triple H had eliminated Dean Ambrose to become a WWE champion. Very successful, very talented man. And coming in at number 1. Now, this is also another fun fact match. This was my first ever WrestleMania watching, and this match is definitely my favorite of all time of Triple H's matches. Coming in at number 1 is WrestleMania 28, Triple H versus The Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee. Now, this is definitely a WrestleMania-worthy match, and I remember witnessing live this match in front of my living room TV, and Triple H, hitting Undertaker with all those chair shots, beating him down with all the chair welts on the Undertaker's back. And I will never forget my mom walking in the living room, and she's looking at the Undertaker's back as all these three men are standing up on the WrestleMania stage, looking at the crowd, all hugging each other, and she's looking at The Undertaker's back, and she sees all these bruises, all these welts, and she's like, oh my god, she's like, is that real? And me and my dad were both in the room, and we're like, yeah, I mean, even though wrestling is scripted, these men put their lives on the line and to make, such a very talented show for the WWE fans. And that is why I am very grateful to call Triple H one of my favorite wrestlers of all time because of this match. Shawn Michaels had screwed The Undertaker with his sweet chin music and Triple H pedigreeing The Undertaker. I honestly thought at that moment The Undertaker's streak would end, but Undertaker was very successful and he had kicked out at 2.5. And I remember Shawn Michaels rushing towards the corner of the ring, sitting down on the turnbuckle, kind of shivering, almost wanting this match to end as soon as possible. But obviously, The Undertaker would come back, and this is another Triple H match where he lost. But this is, without a doubt, Triple H's best WrestleMania match of all time. And there is no denying that, because there is so much history between The Undertaker, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels, the three faces of WWE. And to say the least, this is Triple H's match. This is the greatest of all time match of WrestleMania history. And I didn't think that it was necessary to continue it back six years later, at the Saudi Arabia show, which Triple H versus The Undertaker, and then move on to DX versus the Brothers of Destruction. I didn't really think that was necessary. I would have preferred this match, this type of feud, to end at WrestleMania 28 because it was an end of an era match inside Hell in a Cell. I thought that was definitely the perfect place to close the book and kind of end this rivalry off there. But I think Triple H was definitely a very talented individual during this time, and Shawn Michaels, perfect referee during this match. It had a lot of emotions. I cried during this match after all these three men hugged at the up on the stage, and it was very emotional. It was an emotional ride, this match. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I without a doubt will say that this is the greatest WrestleMania match of all time with Triple H in it, and I definitely recommend seeing it. So anyways, I will be ending the podcast here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for staying tuned for 10 weeks. I can't believe we've been filming this podcast for 10 weeks. It hasn't felt like it. But thank you guys for, all being loyal to the Bostonian Wrestling Watchers. We are very grateful to have such lucky fans. We are very lucky to have such great fans like you guys. And we are very grateful. Just know that. So we want to say goodbye to you, and we will see you next week on episode 11. Peace out.